Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Bailey and I'd like to thank you for joining me on such a lovely sunny day. Today I'm just going to be doing a simple everyday makeup look. Right, so let's get into the video. I have just moisturised my face. Now I'm going to go to my primers. So I'm going to begin with the Barry Pixie Skin Blur and Beauty Elixir. Just add a bit on my face and then I'll blend it in with my fingers. Next I'm going to take the Revolution Pore Blur primer and take a little bit on my finger, and then I just put some across the edges of my nose, as this is where I find my pores show up. So now that we're all primed and ready to go, I'm going to go in with my foundation. I used Revolution Conceal and Define in shade F7. Now I think this shade is a little bit too dark for me, but that's alright because I'm not going to be using it very full coverage. It has this lovely doe foot applicator, but I like to put some on the back of my hand and take my beauty sponge, which I've already wet, dab it on the back of my hand and then start applying to my face. I find this gives a slightly lighter coverage for a more everyday look, but if you want it more full coverage you can go in with the applicator directly onto your face. So now that all the foundation is blended in, I'm going to take my Revolution Conceal and Define concealer. So this is in shade 6.5, and I'm just going to do a little bit in the corners of my eyes. I don't like using too much concealer. Then a bit down my nose, my chin, my forehead. Oops. There you go. And then I'll just blend that out with my beauty sponge again. So now that all my concealer is blended out, I'm going to take some translucent powder. I have this Laura Mercier mini that I got from an advent calendar this year or last year. I find that that's really good to put under my eyes. So I'm going to take this small, I think it's meant to be a contour brush, but I find it's really good for getting underneath my eyes and setting right where the powder needs to go. And this will just help set and keep my concealer where it should be. I just inhaled that. As I was gonna say, I like to dab a bit around the corners of my nose where I tend to get very oily, just so that my foundation and concealer stay set. I'm sorry. Don't sniff your setting powder. And now all I can smell is my powder. Definitely not recommended. So I mainly take this brush where I've put my concealer, so under my eyes and across my T-zone. And then I'll just take a more fluffy powder brush for the rest of my face. And I just tap out a little bit more powder and then set this sort of in place. Now the foundation itself is kind of mattifying, so I don't really need much around the rest of my face. So I think we're fairly set. So now the next step is eyebrows. So I have this Revolution brow pomade. The label's rubbed off on the top, but I still know what it is because it's labelled on the back. This is in shade soft brown, and I find this suits me quite well where I've got blonde hair and dark roots. And I do also have a Revolution brow pencil kind of thing. This is in shade medium brown though, so it looks a little bit too dark where I have blonde hair. So I'm going to go with the brow pomade today, but pencils are also another good option. Now the brush I'm going to use today for my eyebrows is this Morphe one. I got an eye brush set for Christmas, and this was one of the ones that came with it. It's got spoolie on one end, which I find is really helpful, and then you can swap to the other end and use the brush. So I've just quickly combed through my brows, and then I'm just going to take some of the brow pomade on my brush and start to fill in my eyebrows. So I don't like to do too much at the front here, so you can sort of get that nice gradiented effect, but I try to go for a fairly basic line underneath where my eyebrow hairs lay. So now that I've roughly got that in place, I comb my eyebrows slightly down grab a little bit more pomade, and then I'll do a little bit on my towel here and fill in the top. Now, I wouldn't worry if it's not perfect because I'm definitely going to go around my eyebrow with some concealer. But that's the rough idea of what I would normally do. Just making sure that I've got a bit of a nice arch in there. And I like to pull my tail down a bit. I don't like when people do really straight eyebrows. I get it, it gives you more eyelid space, but I don't think I struggle with that. Now I'm just going to go in and do the same with the other eyebrow. Now, when people tell you that your eyebrows should be sisters, not twins, I think, yeah, I agree. But mine don't even look like sisters. My eyebrows just look completely different. So I normally, once I've filled the basic shape in, I try to get them to look fairly even. So this one, the arch is slightly different shape. So I'll just even that out. So now that they're filled in, I'm just going to grab my concealer and carve them out. This is the brush that I like to use to carve out my eyebrows. I can make it quite thin and it's flat and it's just perfect to sort of go straight under my eyebrow. So just grab some concealer, apply some under my eyebrow, and then I'll start to carve it out. But I need to concentrate, so I'll stop talking for a moment. Now I'll quickly do the other side and then I'll try and get them even. So now that they look fairly even, I'm just going to take a little bit of my foundation, because that's a slightly darker colour, and go across the tops. So now that I've gone and put foundation across the top, I'm just going to quickly take my beauty blender and try and blend that in around the edges. And then quickly underneath the concealer. And there we go, my basic, fairly basic, eyebrows. Next, I'm going to move on to the eyes. Because we're doing an everyday sort of look, I'm going to go for a natural-ish looking nude colour, some browns, and try not to put too many colours in it, otherwise it won't look normal. So because I put concealer underneath my eyebrows, I blended that down onto my eye. I'm not really going to put an eyeshadow base on. It's still fairly tacky, and the eyeshadow will stick to that perfectly fine. So to begin with, I'm not actually even going with an eyeshadow. I'm using I Heart Revolution mini chocolate palette. It's chocolate strawberry, and this has a contour brownie shade and a shimmery pink blush colour. Now I'm just going to take that brown colour onto an eyeshadow brush, which is fairly fluffy, and just start buffing that into my eye. I apply the colour by tapping, and then I'll blend it out with circular motions around the edges. Now, I don't like to go too close to the eyebrow, but I like to blend it to the point where it blends nicely into the edge of the concealer, so you've got that nice dark to light. So now going in with this eye, patting it into the crease, and then slowly blending out. So now they look fairly even. So I'm going to go find a darker shade so I can deepen my crease. I'm going to start by taking another Morphe brush. You can see I like this brush set. And I'm just going to go into this shade here. I'm just going to lightly put my brush in there, tap a little bit of the excess off, and start to go into my crease. Now you can already see that this shade is a bit deeper than the other one that we've already put on. And I use basically the same sort of method. I'll tap it in there and then start to blend around the edges of it, blending up into the lighter colour, like how we did into the concealer before. So I'm slightly blowing this out to the corner because this will be perfect to put the wing. And I think that is quite blended out. So then I'll just move on to the other eye. Quite self-explanatory. I'm just going to do it again. I'll be back in a minute. Now, if you're struggling to blend it out, you can always go back to the lighter shade and blend that down into the darker colour. That's one way to get a cleaner blend. But this brush is basically doing it quite well for me anyway. So now that that's nice and blended, we're going to deepen it up with an even darker colour. I'm going to change brush. I'm going to use this. It's not really a blending brush, so I'm going to use it to apply the darker colour, and then I'm going to blend it out with that other brush that I've just used because it's already got some of the lighter colour on, so it will help blend it out more. Right now, I'm just going to actually take this dark, very dark, might be a black shade, I was going to say very dark brown, and I'm just going to apply that to the outer corner and blend it into the deepest part of my crease. Just dabbing my brush in there, and then dabbing it on the corner of my eye. Just there, because that's sort of where the deepest part of your eye is. Now that I've got that applied there, first I'll take my other brush, and first I'll just blend it up into a bit of a wing, and then I'll start blending it into the crease using like windscreen wiping motions back and forth across my eye. But can you see that? They're completely different. There's not really much way to make it lighter. Like, it doesn't look bad, but when you compare it to the other side, that looks really good. It looks bad. Now that I've gone and tried to even them out, I'm going to add a shimmer on the top. In this palette, there's this really pinky whitey shade. I don't know why I'd really want to use that with these browns. I find that some of these Revolution shimmers, they're not quite as creamy. It's sometimes good to try and get them onto your finger and just apply them like that. I'll just lightly pull it over my eye. Now, if you really wanted it to pop a little bit more, you could always just put a bit of concealer under there, some sort of eyeshadow base that it's going to stick to, but I like to just use my finger. So now that I've got most of the eyeshadow on, I'm going to do some brow bone highlight, inner corner highlight, then I'll do my lower lash line. So once again, I'm taking a Morphe brush, and it's this really nice, slightly overly brush, but it's just perfect to put underneath my brow bone and in my inner corner. I'm going to take, you'll never guess, another Revolution product. Fierce Mind. This was a freebie that I got. It's got these beautiful highlight and blushy shades. I'm just going to take this lighter shade and put it under my eyebrow. So now I'm going to do my inner corner, and I just like to blend it into the edge of my shadow up there. Now, we're not trying to go for a really intense glow, but if I was, I'd maybe use some setting spray or like wet it, or I sometimes get my finger and just dab it in there, and it just makes it pop more. But for today, we're just going to go for a subtle inner corner glow. So now that I've finished with that, I'm going to just quickly do my lower lash line in the same colours I did before. Probably going to use mainly the middle shade because that's just going to look best. It's not too light, not too dark. So I just lightly get a little bit on the brush and lightly move back and forwards through where my lashes are. And it joins up perfectly with the edge of my blowout hair. And I'm actually going to go back to the brush which I was using with the lighter shade. I'm not going to put any more eyeshadow on it, but just use it to fluff out the edges. So that's looking good, nice and snatched. Oh my god. She's really trying to become a beauty guru. Now for my next step, I'm going to take my eyeliner. This is just a cheap one from Collection because my other one, I can't remember what it was, had run out. This eyeliner is alright, it's just a liquid eyeliner, it's got this sort of tip. I'm going to start off with doing a line from out here and joining it to the corner of my eye. like so. Go from here and pull it across the eye and go back the other way. So we go, I've made a basic wing. Now that's a fairly thick and chunky wing. You can always do thinner if that's what you prefer. Or I guess you could go even bigger. Go big or go home. And then I just like to go into sort of where the inner corner is and pull a line out to join the rest and line along my lashes. So there we go, a fairly basic wing. And then I do it on the other side so I can match. So now that I've done the eyeliner, I'm going to do my lashes. So first I'll start off by curling my eyelashes. I have quite long and dark natural eyelashes anyway, but when I put thicker eyeliner on, you can't see my eyelashes as well. So now that I've curled them, I'm going to go in with some mascara. I have a mini of the Bad Gal Bang mascara, and this looks really good on my eyelashes. It's got a long wand, and I'll just run a little bit of it through my eyelashes. I don't like really clumpy eyelashes. I like them when they're more separated. So now that I've got a fairly decent coat on there, I'll just re-dip and go onto my other eye. And then after I've done those two eyes, I don't re-dip because I don't want too much on the brush. And then I'll just quickly cover my lower lashes because some of them are quite light in colour and it just makes them, you can see them all. I will then either wear a lash or wear my eyelashes like this. Now normally if I'm not wearing any eyeshadow or a light amount of eyeshadow with no eyeliner, I'm pretty good without wearing any falsies, but today we've got a thick eyeliner on, fairly dark eyeshadow, so I'm gonna go for it. It's up to you whether you want to wear eyelashes for your everyday makeup. I normally wouldn't. I normally wouldn't wear this for my everyday makeup, but it's a bit more natural than my colourful looks that you'll see on my Instagram. So today I have these black wispies. I think I want to say they're Ardell ones. So I just take my clear eyelash glue, take my eyelash out, put a thin layer across the whole band, and then because I find it struggles to stick on my inner and outer corners, I just put an extra little glob on each end. I wait for it to dry and get a little bit tacky before I stick it on my eye. Now I don't use tweezers because I find it's actually more awkward holding it further away, whereas this I can hold it more precise. I have fairly small fingers, so I just stick it in the middle to begin with, and then lower the end down to my outer corner and stick that on, and then take the other end and stick it, just lightly pinch and hold it to my normal lashes. So that's one eyelash on. They can be a pain in the bum, and they don't look, actually they don't look too bad, they look fine, but I'm just judging myself too much. Now that the eye makeup is done, we're going to move back to the face and do the cheeks. So I'm now going to go back to the I Heart chocolate palette that I used earlier and use the contour shade on my cheeks. I'm just going to take this cheek brush, but I just like to lightly dab that in and tap it off because it's quite a pigmented shade, and just lightly add it to my cheek. I like to blend it up into my hairline, up here. And then I just, because it's such a soft brush, I can blend it out quite well. I don't really like having harsh contour. I don't really mind not having perfect contour. It's just there, and it just warms my face up a little bit. Do a bit along the jawline. And then I'll just brush a little bit down my nose. I don't contour my nose, I just basically leave it as it is because I ain't good at that stuff, but there you go. So next we're moving on to blush, and you'll never guess, another Revolution palette. This is the Sugar and Spice blush palette. And I really like using this peachy shade here for a natural colour. Just taking, yet again, another brush. This is a blush cheeks brush. And I just like to add it to the apples of my cheeks like so. Blend that out a bit. And once that's on, I then take a little bit and blend it further up my cheek. Then I take a little bit and do it on the nose, as lots of people have been doing recently. I just like to do the lightest bit ever. So right now we're looking very matte. We're going to go in with some highlighter. You guessed it, a Revolution chocolate palette. This is Praline, and I love to use this shade as a light goldeny glow. And it goes with this nude look perfectly. Because we're looking very dry at the moment, I'm going to take some setting spray. This is just the Milk Makeup Blur Spray. I just like to use this setting spray just to bring a bit of life back to my face. And that is really refreshing. Dab that into the highlight and add it along my cheeks. Now, I'm not quite sure how well you can see this, because I find my highlighter shows up completely different on camera as it does in person. So I like to blend this into the blush along the cheeks. And then I'll just take whatever's left on the brush, add it to my forehead. And then I'll go back to that small brush that I used for highlighting on my eyes and put a bit on my nose, on the tip of my nose like so. And then a little bit further up the bridge of my nose, blend that out, and then a little bit on my Cupid's bow. So now we've got this lovely golden glow. Now today we're just going to go for a nude because it's every day, and I'm going to take this NARS lip pencil that I got in, I think I got in the Christmas advent calendar, and then I like to use this just to line around most of my lips. I'm going to take some lip gloss, and I'm going to use I Heart Revolution in the shade Praline. This one smells so good. So this is definitely my go-to for a nude. It just goes on so perfectly. It's not really sticky. I'll just take some setting spray. And there we go. This is the final look. So this is an everyday, well, maybe not so everyday makeup look with everything. Obviously you don't have to do all of it, but I did today, and I hope you like it. Thanks for joining me today, coming and watching this video. If you liked it, make sure to like the video, and also to show your support by subscribing. And make sure to check out my Instagram page, which has a lot of makeup looks, and I'm sure I'll be doing some more soon. I've just been taking a little bit of a break because of quarantine and just taking some time to myself. I've not been on social media as much, but now I'm gonna try and stick to this YouTube, and I hope you'll enjoy watching my videos. Thank you. Bye. I made a bit of a mess. Now I've got to tidy it all up. And that requires effort. I don't know if I have that anymore.